Welcome, beautiful beings, change makers, and giants from around the world. We have another beautiful masterclass for you, so hang tight. We'll be right back. And if there's one thing I've learned over the years of doing these is that when there's a technological glitch or even a glitch in our speaking, right, it's going to be the best show we've ever done. And so we had a bit of a panic attack coming in,
Thank you.
but we're excited to have you all here. So we'll give everybody a minute to tune in. And so I love it. The other day I got to witness Rose's family, so that was beautiful. Your kids are on. Well, Rose, let's do a little bit of housekeeping and welcome everybody in. I'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for having us again, Nick, on this glorious Sunday. And I'm just laughing. I've just been brought cake. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Oh. But my gorgeous husband has just brought me cake, which is so lovely of him. So housekeeping. We are about just under 50 days out from the ultimate Birmingham Experience, taking place on the 25th and 26th of May at Aston Villa Park, which is 2 miles north of central Birmingham. And it's really getting real. Now, ticket sales are ramping up. And I've spoken today with 2 people, one of whom was involved in organising the India event, the Mumbai India event. So shout out to Farah, who also spoke on stage, introducing, I don't remember exactly who she introduced, but she was a pivotal part of organising the India event. And she has now put her hand up to be involved in supporting people coming from India to the UK. So the groundswell is growing. Now is as good a time as any to get hold of your ticket. We've still and will right up until the day we will be having our Bring a Buddy ticket, where you can get 2 tickets if you buy them together, priced at the same price as the original first creator ticket. So you still need to buy 2, and they come in at $375 each. So it's not buy one get one free, but buy them together and you'll get a gorgeous discount. So it's worth it, and it means that you can come knowing that you've got a buddy alongside you. We still recommend you keep your hotel in central Birmingham. So people are starting now to ask about hotels, and we will be sharing in the next sort of week or so hotels that we are recommending people book into. And also people are starting to talk about organising meetups on the Friday night and on the Saturday night and on the Sunday night. So now's the time to buy your ticket, get involved in the organisation of some of the meetups before and after the event, and also to put yourself in for a hotel. Those are my updates for now. And it's just a joy to be here with Lindsey, because it's taken some organisation, errors on my part, time challenges and various bits and pieces. So it feels so good that we're all here together today.
I think it's just an example of life. It's a sampling of life, because I sent out the message too, and I'm like, oh shoot, that's today, not Sunday. It was 3 days ago. I'm like, oh man, this has been an interesting coming together of an event here. So this masterclass is going to be powerful. Are we good to go ahead and introduce?
Let's go.
Let's do it. So I'm going to introduce our TUB Masterclass. So since 2014, Lindsey Capp has been a master coach and coach trainer and has led thousands of people with a multitude of personal challenges to transform their mental and emotional pain into power. Having experienced her own painful past, including a childhood heavy with physical and emotional abuse, Lindsey took those challenges and traumas into an equally harsh adulthood. At 40 years old, single mother of 3 with no family support or income and feeling utterly trapped in anger, frustration, resentment, judgment, and blame, Lindsey made a brave decision to change. Initially inspired by an NLP course and driven on by her coaches and further training, Lindsey started to transform from pain of her life into a power that would finally give birth to the international training and coaching company that she runs to this day, counting British Aerospace and major utility companies amongst her client portfolio. So Lindsey now teaches others how they can transform themselves so that they can transform others. Lindsey is a certified NLP master practitioner, NLP trainer, emotional intelligence profiler, trainer, and life coach who's dedicated to putting her skills and experience to work to help people get free of their past by transforming their pain into power. So, Lindsey, welcome to the masterclass.
I'm like, is that me? Wow, that sounds incredible.
That is you.
Yeah.
That's how we experience you.
That's
So
nice.
we're gonna move Rose into the back room here, and you and I are gonna chat for the next hour. And I have no idea where this is gonna go, other than from pain to power. We started actually a little bit inside of the construct of pain to power today, didn't we?
Just getting on here.
Yeah, yeah,
And this flickering, it's fine.
it's
I don't
fine.
know
And
why it's
the,
happening, but
the the beauty is we've got people joining us, and it's morning in some places, it's evening in others. We have people all over the world.
mhm.
And so let's start with this idea of pain to power. Where did it originate? Why that topic out of everything you could have chosen to focus on?
It's a great question, Nick. And my honest answer is that's my truth.
Mm,
And I think really when we try to do something, it doesn't work when we're trying. When we are really coming from what is my truth? What is my story? What is the place in which I started so that I can really show up authentically to others? And for me, it came from pain first.
mm.
Pain was where I originally started a self development, self awareness place.
Do,
And
do you
go on
think
then.
that your life that you would have created that had you not gone through the pain?
I mean, I can't know, but if
Yes.
I
Yeah.
was to hazard a guess, Nick, how could I have the lack of fear, I think, has come from when you have nothing to lose, everything's in play on the table.
Mm,
So there is a real sense of resilience and a real sense of trust in your ability to manage anything that happens because you started at a nothing. You didn't
mm.
have self worth. You didn't have luxuries in life. You didn't have anything to lose, but you really felt that you had huge amounts to gain.
Yeah.
So so I think that really did help for me to be able to relate to anyone who was in any kind of pain because the extremity of pain that I had already endured.
Can we create a distinction here right out
Mm,
of the gate? Yeah, and what I know about you and appreciate about you is you will speak your truth so clearly, so candidly. Like you're going to know exactly when we talk to Lindsey, you know exactly who you're working with because what's going on in there is coming out here. There's no hiding it. But I want to create a distinction between pain and suffering. What is the difference in your world? What does that mean, pain? What does it mean, suffering? And are those essential for people to shift, to transform?
mm. So I can only speak from my truth, and it may be different for everybody, but certainly for me, pain is a noticing that is happening inside of me, that
Mm,
is resulting in an action, a behavior, a belief system, whereas suffering is my unwillingness to move. So pain is I notice it, I see it, and I desire and dream for something else, and I'm willing to take the action needed. Suffering for me is a, not a conscious victim mentality, but it's not fair. I certainly was there for a long time of I have an alcoholic mother, I have abuse, I have this, and that story kept me suffering. It was when I was willing to have a real, oh, well, now what sort of mentality that moved me from suffering to pain, because nothing had changed except my mindset on what I wanted to do next. So there's a big saying that I have in my coaching, which is, do you want to get out of your bath of shit? Do you want to get out?
Yeah.
Because when you're in it, you are suffering. It's awful. But if you want to get out, it's, come on, let's get out. Let's get out. Let's get washed down. It smells horrible. It feels horrible. We can't do anything in here. But when we move out, the pain's there. But now we're moving into, what do you want?
Yeah. Okay, I'm hearing something here, like, which is so cool. The idea, we hear, I want to move from suffering to peace. I want to hear from suffering to pleasure. I don't want to move from suffering to pain. Yet suffering to pain gives it a new view of suffering is a self-induced, it seems, judgment of our status or our position in this universe, right? Here we are, we experience pain. Pain is something we'll go through. Suffering is optional. It's something that we put on ourselves over the pain that we're experiencing. So to move from suffering to pain, which is such a different direction, right? It's most people are like, no, why would I go from suffering to pain? Like, that's ridiculous, right? But get out of your bath of shit, right? Is no, let's get out of that and let's clear off. And now what, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you're lying to yourself if you think you can do this
Uh,
from suffering to happiness. There
mm,
isn't a truth there. There isn't an authenticity, because you've got to do the work. You've got to heal some things. You've got to change some beliefs. You've got to really experience yourself in a completely different way. So to think that you can do this without going through pain would mean that the polarity of that is love. Love is pain. And I'm
mm,
certainly not going to live my life without experience that. So you can't have one without the other. And that is the truth, because suffering to happiness it's not possible in my view.
yeah. Let's stay here for a minute because I think there's some real gold inside of this.
Mm,
Um, that is something that we avoid. We avoid pain. We don't want to feel pain. And
mm,
we'll tolerate our suffering. This is what's interesting is we'll sit in our suffering for decades,
mm,
but we want to avoid the pain. So we'll sit in our suffering, but we don't want to go back to the pain to heal that suffering. We want to go straight to the pleasure or the happiness, right?
mm,
And the idea that I think I'm getting at here is that there's an acknowledgement and an acceptance of where we are in our world. This is what's happening. Whether you describe it any other way, this is what's happening in your world, right? The reality is, uh, I'm in a not so ideal situation.
mm, mm.
Is,
And
is
and
and yeah.
and Nick, the thing is, if we don't learn how to be with our pain, then we can never be authentic. You know,
Mm,
I hear people say it a lot, where authenticity is so desired, truth is so desired. Well, if you don't have an ability to be with your pain, then you don't have a resilience or a truth of how you moved through it. So authenticity isn't even possible. What you
mm,
will speak from is knowledge or books or information or someone else's story. But if you can't be with the pain inside of you, then there is never going to be a possibility of joy, because
mm,
joy comes from uh, your true knowing, like that inner truth that we all search for, which is the journey that really, when you hit joy, it's because you know what pain you've gone through to get to this place. And sometimes I've been with people where tears will come down their face, because the joy that is unexplainable is due to the sacrifice and the pain that they were willing to move through to get to this place.
Okay, so Rumi talks about joy is concealed in grief. And
Absolutely.
yeah, the idea that grief, my definition of that is gravare, which means weightiness, heaviness, and joy is concealed inside of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tell me about.
Because Nick, there's such a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness, I believe, is the thing that we're really talking about, which is, I want to be happy. It's like, that's so quick, fleeting.
Yeah.
Happy doesn't stay, but joy, when you've hit joy, you remember it. You seek it again. You're willing to, go through so much for that kind of joy. If we think about women giving birth, I mean, that's one hell of a task that you do again and again, and you would never not do, because of the joy, that elated moment that you birthed a child. It doesn't get bigger than that, but is there pain involved?
Yeah, yeah. I would imagine. I don't know from personal experience,
Just
right?
saying, but as a father, and even if we're not fathers in biological, we father, in ways of our leadership, but we father where we would lay down our lives. That's the level of sacrifice that we're talking. So when we say, do you want to be happy? It's like, yeah, that would be nice. Would you like joy? And be careful when you answer, because there is a real sacrifice that will be needed. There will be a real sacrifice that you will move through. But what's felt, that depth, that level of truth, it radiates from you, that you don't ever speak authenticity, but it is spoken about you because it is felt through you.
I'm hearing in my head the word happiness, right? It's rooted in haber, which means to have. And so we think if we have things, then we're going to be this hap, which is also by chance, right? So if things happen to us, or by chance we get something and we have it, then we'll be happy. But joy is not. Joy is different, right? Joy is totally different from that. And so it's an experience, whereas happiness is more of a tangible, measurable. If this happens, or I have that, then I'll be satisfied with life. I'd love to hear your thoughts around that, and maybe go a little deeper there with that distinction.
I have coached thousands of people, and I'm going to say thousands, where they have money, they have the car, they have the life that they thought would give them the happiness, and there's still a hole.
Yeah.
There's still a lack. There's still a torture, which is, they promised that this was it. If I worked hard and I had money and I looked after my children, that I would feel more than I'm feeling now. Why aren't I happy? Why aren't I
I
feeling that?
have everything, right?
Yeah. And the truth is, the sacrifices that you've made aren't the real inner work. They're not the in you thought you could do a shortcut. And I've had people say, hey, it was no shortcut, this. I worked my whole life. And it's no, the inner shortcut. You thought if you did all the outside and make that pretty, that you would be able to avoid the real internal work. And listen, nobody gets to ever experience joy without doing the internal work. It doesn't matter how much money you've got, what car you've got on the drive, and what person on your arm you have. The internal joy is only done when you really show up in truth to yourself.
Okay, so this is huge, right? We're going to play with something that we all are familiar with, which is this idea of being. We go throw it around like a definition. Oh, I'm being. We have the knowing of what being is. We have the construct of what being is, the concept of what being is.
Yeah.
That now, if we play into this authenticity, this idea of pain, the idea of joy, creating distinctions right there between suffering and pain and joy and happiness, there's clear distinctions between those. There's also a clear distinction between the definition of being and authentic being. And so I would love to dive a little deeper if you're okay doing this, because I think being also exists in the space of pain and joy, like in those areas, because you're really getting into the core into this, right? I know a lot of stuff, right? I have a bathtub full of shit that I know, right?
Yeah, me too. I have lots of laughs.
Yeah. But really, like, I can know things and not be those things. I can speak it as though I'm that, but I'm not really being that. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, because and Nick, it's because we're in a rush. We're in a rush to move through. And I remember a saying, a Ferrari driver, like someone who owns a Ferrari, you never see them really going at 120 miles an hour. You see them cruising at like 15 miles an hour because they want to enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
And life really, I mean, to me, when we're looking at being, I think the most loving thing I'd say to anybody is don't rush it. Don't write it before you actually birth it. Don't declare it. Don't even speak it out yet. Learn firstly what that is truly for you, because there is a saying which is no good deed goes unpunished. And what I mean by that is when you say you are love, you're going to have to be with hate. You're going to have to be with shame. You're going to have to be with so many things within you, because they're the challenges that will really decide whether you are being love. They're the times when you are love. I am love when my back's against the wall, when I am challenged to the max, when my heart is thumping and pounding. Am I love then? Because so many times I hear I am love, and then what I will see is when your back's against the wall, were you that? Were you truly that? And it's not through judgment I say this, there's the piece of growth that will knock on your door to challenge your way of being in authenticity. Because
It's
does that
like,
make sense?
yes, it's like, let's see. You say you are this,
Yeah.
and the universe steps in and says, okay, let's see.
Mm.
And for me, it's traffic. So in Salt Lake City, Utah, we have traffic, which I profess myself to be a very kind person, and then I start driving, and I'm not so kind,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's like, no, you're not, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But
so there's a
that,
testing there of, are you really? Let's
yeah.
see, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a stepping stone there, which is that you would be truthful with yourself and say, I am in consistent, loving awareness. There's a truth. It's, I am consistent elevation of love. And that's not to say it's not true, or we can play with words, but it has to be a truth in you that you do not speak from anything but your truth. And if you haven't done the work, if you haven't been in those times, and I really can honestly, hand on heart, say, when I say I am love, it has taken me 50 years. It has taken me 50 years of consistent traveling and journeying through, which is the adventure of I am love. And that is because in adverse circumstances, I have learned how to love me well. And there are times when I'm challenged and there are times when it's tough. And yet I know how to come to love in me every single time. I know how to pause because I'm well practiced. I have
Okay,
practiced so long.
yeah. Let's highlight that. I want to highlight that. Like, I wish I could zoom in, right? Like, phew,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that word, practice.
Yeah.
The sound effects, those were from my mouth. That wasn't a machine. That's how impressive those are, right? So that practice though
Yeah.
is so key because I used to tell my clients, and it was so cliche, and I thought it was clever, right? To get what you want out of life, you have to suck at something long enough to get good at it. And I would say that to people, and I'm like, you just have to suck at it long enough to get good at it, right? Which is actually how it works, but I spoke it from knowing, not experiencing. And it's that practice that really takes it from not, from being terrible at it, from pain to power,
Yeah.
because the more you practice something, our brains are designed for automation, our bodies are designed for automation and habituation. And if you don't practice it, that never happens. And so
Absolutely.
we might speak something and never practice it. We might say, oh yeah, I'm being love, and then never practice love. And then you're not really being love at an authentic level. You're being the knowing of what love looks like based
Mm.
on some construct that you developed along the way, right?
100%. 100%. And what's great is
Mm.
this is where it leads us to the authenticity piece that is spoken by another. It's felt in another.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
when it's so real, then as a person speaks in their tone, in their pitch, in their body, in the way that they be with it in them, it comes alive in you. It's like, I can feel you. I
Okay.
can really feel you.
There's research on this recently done. They were measuring emotions and the energy and impact of emotions outside of the body. And we think, oh, love is definitely the highest, right? We think that fear is up there. Authenticity was 4,000 times higher as a measurable energy than love.
And that just lights me up because the work that it takes, the pain that you will have to endure, the willingness for you to consistently get back up and be truthful with yourself. It's not truthful with others. It's the biggest judge is you. It's can you stop and tell the truth of what's really going on in you? And I mean, I don't mean the surface level because that's where a lot of us live. It's like, ask again. Now ask the real question. What's the real truth here? And be ready because it's brutal, because you're going to have to face you square on in the eyes. And it's the thing very, very few of us will do because there's pain, like you said. We don't want to feel it. But on the other side of that bravery, of that courage, is joy, authenticity, truth,
Power.
and legacy and power. Yeah, because you have the power and the freedom to be. And it brings tears to my, I can feel it in my body so
I got
deeply right now.
Me too. Yep.
And
And
it's
you're
like, yeah,
across the pond. You're you're in the future somewhere. For me,
yeah. But I can be here with
Mm.
you, with us, with all of us. And please know there are times where you stand completely alone because you will need to be challenged way beyond comfort. You will be in some pain areas. And at that point, the breath that you take next is going to determine whether you stay in your bath of shit, in your, lack of authenticity, in your, I want to say, your pattern or whether you just stop and move into a truth that you speak that is painful, but it's the treasure. It's everything the other side. It's the journey we really, all of us, want to travel. But it's
Yeah,
going to take every bit of you.
I was told the other day, be careful what you share. Don't let people see you sweat, kind of that ad, don't let people know that
Mm.
you might be struggling. Don't let people know that there might be suffering going on in your world. To me, I've never felt anything so inauthentic
And
as just sitting there and pretending like my life is okay all the time, right? And it doesn't mean that my life is suffering. It just means that the life can be very challenging and painful. And there's a lot that happens in there. And like you, that authenticity is felt. If I'm going out and saying, look, my life is good, and I know it's not, then the energy that's coming out of me is that lie, that dissonance. That dissonance can be felt. People know when you're not being truthful.
You smell. You are in your bath of shit. You smell. You literally smell, and there's something off. There's just something off, and we can't always well-rehearsed people that have stayed safe this way. Listen, we've all been there. I'm not sitting on righteous hill at all. Is I have pretended for the majority of my life in so many ways, externally, internally, the lies I've told myself that I've believed are true, and the pain, well, the suffering that has happened has cost me years that I can't get back. And yet the courage that it has taken to stand here at 50 and say, here I am. I stand alone. I stand free. I mean, my document, my declaration is I am love. I am lovely. I am free. They are 3 statements that I have practiced so relentlessly to the truth that they cannot be rocked, and they cannot not show up in me and felt by another who is open to that in themselves. You see, a big part of being is we can only be with another to the extent of which they are willing to be with themselves. So sometimes we can't always be felt by others in the way that we hope. However, this is where seeing the innocence, and what I love about the book that Steve was so prominent in his direction of reading it about you, and coming back to your statement, Nick, is when you can show all of you, when you can really be willing to be judged and ostracized potentially, the freedom of that actually then becomes the legacy that people follow, because I believe that's all people truly want, is to feel so free in themselves that they can create joy, whether it's money, whether it's not money, whether it's sitting with someone, whether it's listening to someone, but they know how to create joy because it's alive in them in the freedom of their own self-truth.
I'm looking at that sign behind you, right? The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And I think each of us is endowed with a gift. And the challenge of that gift is it's hidden in the cave that we fear to enter. That authenticity, that fear of being truthful about what's going on in our inner world, of who we think we are and what's going on in there. Many of us go around pretending to be others, doing what others have taught us to do, fitting in socially, fitting in culturally, fitting in familially, right? And so we're never fully authentically ourselves. We never fully enter that cave. But the authentic gift that each of us has, that fingerprint that is uniquely ours, sometimes doesn't even get discovered because we've been so busy being everybody else's version of who we think we should be, right? That we never fully expose who we really are at our core, and we have no clue, right? Like we never really enter that cave. So I think
Painful in there, Nick.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's really painful. No one goes in there with you. You can't take anyone with you. You mean I've got to really look at me, and there's only one me, and I'm not like anybody else? That's the
Mm.
story that keeps you from going in the cave. And then in there, when you come out, the treasure in there is you're the same, we're the same, we're all one. We've just created this hierarchy, superficial, fear-based way of being that makes us scared to stand alone. And really, it's the only place that true freedom is, because when we look at the people we follow, they are the freest people.
Mm.
Otherwise,
Yeah,
why are
right.
we following them?
Okay, I'm gonna get a little off topic here.
Sorry.
I mean, on topic and off topic, because
Yeah.
I love this, because
Yeah.
it almost becomes, that as humans, we love to complicate simple things, right? There's a like the in biblical terms, it would be the Pharisees of the world. We become pharisaical. I don't know how to say this, but we create rules on rules. And then we start to regulate those rules, not only in ourselves, but others. But we don't truly authentically live the teachings that are there. We live the rules by which we think we're governed. And so we put on this persona, and we dress ourselves up, and we say all the language of being, I'm speaking the word, so I'm doing it. And then we regulate others on their use of that languaging. And then we never get to the core of a person, because we're all busy regulating each other over what we're saying. But you truly hear what you're sharing here, and this is going to be stepping on some edges here, I'm sure, with some people. When you can hear what you're saying, Lindsey, at the core of it, it's not about right or wrong. It's about authenticity. It's about authentically getting to the core of yourself by going to places that you were taught not to go, by going to places that could cost you socially, by going to places that others might judge you as unacceptable based on a certain set of rules that we've adopted. And I want to play here for a minute, because what I know about you is you speak your truth. You don't speak your mind. I think that's a little different. You speak your truth. You speak your authenticity. You are so comfortable in you that you can talk about any topic without attaching to it and without judging it. And I think that's where we really could get to as a possibility, is get to that space of
And this is what happens when we go there, because I believe I don't have the most articulate or ways of knowledge, but I know I feel me 100% of the time. And if you're in a space with me for long enough, you will feel you. You will feel the truth of you coming up. And it needs to come up, because from my heart is we need you. We need you. We need every one of us to be ourselves, because there is so much that we don't reciprocate, that we don't copy. It's like, I want to be with you. I want to be with you so much. But I can only be with you if I can be me. And if I'm not being me, I'm going to prevent this beautiful moment and more moments, which is trust. When you have trust in one another, that you can trust me, I am going to do the work for the rest of my life. And there will never be a time that I know, or that I will tell you, or that I won't hold space for you. But I will always be me, lovingly. And sometimes that will be tough. I promise you it will be tough.
I love this. I had a conversation with my girlfriend this week, and it was very candid, very clear, very reaffirming of who I need to be, who I would like to be inside of our relationship. And there's a sense of concern around that comes up. I think we get anxiety. Lisa Feldman Barrett talks about anxiety as a not measuring up to the ideals we think others have for us. And so when we think that we're not measuring up to these ideals, then we start to get anxious. But when
Yeah.
we're authentic, we don't feel anxiety. We feel so much peace, so much joy, so much power. And that's where she and I got to, was a space of she can be her exactly as she is. I can be me exactly as I am. And we can come together in this thing called a relationship. And if we have to change ourselves inside of that relationship, then what are we doing? If I have to be a certain way to fit in with her construct, or she has to be a certain way to fit in with my construct, then we're not authentically ourselves, and we can never truly relate.
I have a spin on that.
Yeah, please do. Please. Yeah.
So I just think sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to move into this co-created relationship that has a whole history of experiences, and then we try to make it work together. And I'm going to share with you my experiences and my wishes and my wants and my pains, and you're going to do the same. And then we've got to try and work this thing through, where we both feel safe enough. And you talk about authenticity. And again, I think what comes up for me is we can't have authenticity yet because we haven't done the work together. Like, we've got to work through this, because where we're going to get to is we're going to look at one another and say, we did it. We did it. We really did it. And it's like, again, it's my ask of don't rush it. Don't try and have authenticity yet. Experience me and experience you with me, because there's going to be a new you that shows up with me, because you've not been with me before.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You've not been with me. So you can't bring all that with you, because you won't feel me. You'll feel your container of listening. I talk about containers of listening because I feel I feel this is the cave. Would you set the container of listening before you be with me through who you are being? So I can really hear somebody because of my container of listening is always looking for the loving connection. And if I can't find it, I will pause. I will keep looking in me. And when I can find it in me, we're going to have that conversation again. But if I can't find it in me yet, bear with me, because I'm not in my power to love you well, because it's not alive in me. I'm going to come from fear. Does that make sense, Nick?
Oh, let me see if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
as well as I can.
Yeah.
No, to me, I think it does, is that if I listen to somebody from my fears about them, fears of abandonment, fears of whatever, then I'm going to hear everything they say from that point of view, that container.
Yeah.
And if I truly am authentically listening to somebody, then I can have a listening, a hearing of them, an understanding of them. Doesn't mean I have an attachment to what they share, a judgment, a justification for what they share, a fear of what they share. I can truly hear it. And if I can truly hear it, then I can relate to them.
Yeah.
And if I truly can't relate to them, if I can't hear them, I can't relate to them, because what I'm relating to is my version of how I want to hear the world. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, we have our perceptions that filter everything that we're going to hear. So people will hear this conversation, and some people are going to hear it a certain way, and some people might hear it as an attack on their way of being.
So many, so many. And I ask you to really hear this, because this is how you move yourself from pain to power. Is if you truly want the power and the freedom to be love, and everything that you put against that, then take the ownership and the responsibility of how did you set up the container of your listening. Who are you being when you entered this? Who are you being upon your listening? Who are you being in your noticing? You know, there is a big responsibility when we enter being. It takes everything. And what I would say is, everything is on the other side of it true, because your true way of being is love. And I have never met anybody who could give me an argument against that. Is you are pure love. And if you are willing to lay down the sword, if you are willing to lay down the fears and acknowledge them, don't just lay down, but acknowledge that you are laying them down. I am laying down my fear of abandonment here. It's here. Don't ignore it. It's here. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. And I love you.
This is, if those that are watching and those that will watch can hear this, this is the most powerful thing that you could do, is to lay down, not only the weapons, but the who you think you are, because you think you are something. And so you come into this from that set of who you think you are-ness, the bathtub of whateverness, right? And then you listen to somebody, but you only hear them from that way, that clothing that you've put on, essentially. If we were to strip ourselves down, we would be naked. There would be no clothing on us. But the moment we put clothes on, we stylize ourselves and we say, that's my style. That's who I am.
Yes.
If I could strip that away and really expose myself as I am a naked human, right? If I really get down to the core of my listening, I've put on all this clothing on my listening. I've put on this essence of, this is how I'm going to hear you based on the style I've adopted.
Yeah.
But if we strip that down, that nakedness truly is, and I'm with you on this, at the core of it, it's a love. It's an acceptance. And what I appreciate about love is you can't really define it as one thing. It's a lot of things that are facets of this depth of being that is stripped of everything, right? Of everything you think you are.
Yeah, because there's an innocence. The thing that we're being asked to be is the way we were born, which is when love really shows itself. If you are willing to lay down everything and be in your innocence, knowing you are love, and this is my declaration, this is my document. I am love. I am lovely. I am free. And my last line is, I am everything and nothing. Because the minute I am able to be nothing in my truth, I become everything.
Oh man, I'm reflecting on the conversation with Karan Rai, and he talked about via negativa, which is to strip yourself down to the nothingness. But it's not like we strip ourselves down to nothingness. We strip ourselves down to everything.
And that's the power, Nick. That's the power, from the pain of fear and judgment and being taken and being lost and vulnerable. When we know we're everything, we have nothing to fear. So we can be nothing, which inevitably means we're everything. It's such, and I'd ask people to really take time to be with that statement, because it isn't a rushed process that you can just get this. It's speak it into you, actually practice this. How are you everything and nothing? Because what's on the other side of this is a joy and a freedom to love well and be loved well.
There's no, like, people are going to hear this and they'll be like, you guys are weird. You guys are speaking some language I don't even understand.
I know, it's great.
But when you really slow down with it, they're never really, when you can really slow down to the nothingness, there's no attack, there's no judgment, there's no againstness in that. And what tends to happen, though, is that our judgments of ourselves come in contact with the judgments of others, and those judgments are speaking to each other. And therefore, we're not truly speaking to each other from the core. We're speaking at each other from our judgments of ourselves and others and our justifications. And anytime we get into that space of justifying or judging, then we're not growing or learning. And one of my favorite definitions, you talk about laying down the sword. One of my favorite definitions of forgiveness is to not cause additional harm. And so not only do we lay down the weapons, we don't cause additional harm from the judgments that we hold. We're actually able to hold space for somebody wherever they're at and truly hear them.
I had a situation, and someone who I truly admire really got angry and really felt that I was attacking something that they loved. And they really were hurting. And had I not had the ability to love me well, the words that came out of my mouth would not have authentically happened, which kept us in loving connection, which is, I am loving what is. The Byron Katie, statement is, even in the toughest of times when my relationship, who I loved very much, broke down, I am loving what is. And sometimes I may need to love you from over here. And the simpleness of that is, can you, and it's big ask, can you love what is? Because the naked truth of you is you will always be okay because you love what is. And that will take every bit of courage, that will take every bit of trust, and that will take every bit of you being with you in that truth statement. And that's authenticity. That's freedom. That's power.
Man.
I know. Let me read something to you, Nick.
Yeah, please.
Somebody said to me, I heard this, Lindsey, and it's you. And it brought tears to my eyes that another person felt this was me. And when I read it, I thought this is perfect for today, to every person that is listening here, that is going to come to Birmingham, that is reading, the book, that is doing a document, that wants to create their being. It's really hear this. Steve says, read the book as though it's you. And I'm asking you to hear this as though it is you. And the title of this is, He Wishes for the Cloths of Heaven. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, inwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light, and the half light, I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I am being poor. I have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams.
Whew.
And I think if we really were truthfully moving our pain to power, we would say, I am spreading my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. And when we can do that and ask for that, then we enable another person to do the same for another.
Oh, man. I've been a proponent lately of the idea of the positive ripple, and the idea, man, that's what we're here to do, to lay our dreams under the feet of others so that they can lay their dreams under the feet of others, and that ripple goes out. And you really want to change the world, start with the person you're in front of.
And this is the being movement. This is being. This is the event in Birmingham. We're all here to learn how. Show me how I can I can feel the emotion coming up in my body. I've got goosebumps all over my body because the level of truth that is being spoken out of me now, I get nervous because I feel it so deeply. Is our life's work, our legacy is that I leave something in you that lives on.
Hmm.
And I want to love you well. And I want help to be strong enough, courageous enough to lay down my dreams under your feet and trust that you will tread softly.
Mm.
And if I can get the help, the courage to go in that cave and come out and have the strength and the bravery and the authenticity to do this from love, then I'm just going to be on one hell of an adventure and witness joy. And that's one hell of a life to live, right?
Yeah. And it's the tying it back, to the pain, to moving from suffering to pain is the true path to joy, not happiness. There's a difference. It's the true path to joy, right? Because it's through the pain, like Rumi says, that joy is concealed in grief. And the laying our dreams, I think it was Queen Elizabeth that said that, grief is the cost of love. And that also ties in because I'm willing to place my dreams under your feet. I'm risking everything.
And that's the honest truth that brings tears to your eyes, Nick, is that's how I want to love and live. And I fear being trampled on. But it's going to take courage. And the choice is, who am I going to be in this moment? And that's why we do a document, a truth, because you will not lay down your dreams unless you have a true way of being that is solid and truthful, because it will be too big a ask.
Yeah. And nobody will get to your core unless you really strip down to your nothingness, which is everything.
Yay! Yay!
Right?
We did it. We did it. And that's
Which is the power, right? That is where the power is. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can't do this alone. This is why we do the events. This is why we get the best of people that journeyed and have the wisdoms to help us to not have to take so long. There's people that we want with us to help us to be more truthful in our being, because we want this. We want joy.
I love that. Man, this ties so many things together. It's like, oh, I've heard this truth and that truth, and they're spoken out there as concepts and constructs. And I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But I think that will be the distinction that's created in Birmingham is we're not going to teach you a bunch of tools. We're going to be demonstrations of what's possible from being, what's possible for you.
Yeah. We're going to help you touch the truth in you that maybe you can't see yet. And we're going to help you to touch it so deeply in a space, in person, that you are going to feel that allows you to walk out of that room in your truth, in your being, and say, I'm ready to lay my, it makes me nearly cry. Like, I can't imagine a more loving space to take people on the journey over those 2 days to say, we're going there, we're going in, and this might be rough, but we're with you every step of the way, all of us, and we're here, and you are going to have the potential to lay down your dreams under the feet of people you truly love and a life you truly love. And people may tread softly and they may not, but you're going to be okay because you're going to have an ability to know how to do this and practice this. And this is the journey that will gift you everything. I mean, where do we get the help to do this?
Man, and the access.
Oh, look at the
Right, the
people.
access. We could go on another hour about that.
I know.
I know we're at time here, and I wanna honor that.
Mm.
And I wanna ask at the same time, is there anything else we need to share today?
I think for me, what I would ask everybody to do is to follow this. Follow this. Firstly, set the container of which you want to hear this podcast again. Set your dreams, make them at the forefront of your listening. And then I'm going to ask you to dare to stay open, to trust in what is being spoken here as a possibility for you to say yes to coming to Birmingham, to you saying yes to join an environment that will love you and hold space for you, where you can stay strong, you can go inside, and you can love you to an ability that you have never loved before. And I ask you to do this with a view to creating more joy in your life.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for being
Thanks, Nick.
like just you, you know.
Thanks.
I got so
Thanks.
much love. Like I just I
People,
love being in the presence of people that are truly themselves. You know, there's a difference between somebody that knows things and somebody that's being things, you know. And years ago I got to sit with Steve Hardison in a, you know, I was in a parking lot of a welfare center in Salt Lake in 2009. It inspired the book The Giants and the Smalls, and he was that for me. This is another experience of that, and to be a person that could almost, you know, just be in the presence of people like this for a few days. I would move mountains to be there, knowing what it could do. So I just want to thank you for who you are. I could feel it. Like I could feel it across the pond here. You know, I'm all the way in Utah. You're in the UK, I believe.
yeah.
And here we are feeling it, and my nose is running. I look like a mess. You know, I'm so unprofessional. It's like somebody would be like, "Get that man a tissue."
But what's lovely is
Yeah.
that you were willing to be with me. And I felt that. And I will leave this call so grateful for the time that we've spent together. And that is true being. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. Rose, did you have some final thoughts?
No, it's all been said. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you both. Thank you, Lindsey. I'm sort of weeping in the background as well. It's been really beautiful and moving. So much in here. So thank you both.
You're welcome.
Let's do some more. Be with us for those 2 days. 2 days, and there's just me, there's Nick, there's Rose, and look at the lineup. Look at the amount that you will experience, not be told, but experience. And I don't know a place where you could ever feel this to this extent that would change your life. So I urge every single person, not as a sales tactic, but as a elevation of us rippling out in the world, because the world needs more truth and more love.
And now more than ever in history. So for those that are watching, Man, thank you. Your comments, I'm looking at the quantity of comments on there. We haven't even gotten back to them, but there's so many on there. Thank you for participating. Thank you for sharing this. I know there's somebody in your world that could use this message today. Share it with them and tell them why. Tell them why they could listen to this as a possibility for them. And really look at your own life and dive deep into, who am I? Am I being as a construct? Am I being as knowing? Or am I really stripping down to that nothingness where being really is, where that love really is? And really sit with that, because that's a deep question there. Where are you operating from? Because there's the being as a concept and there's the being as being. It just is, right? And so we appreciate you. Thank you for being part of another powerful masterclass. We have so many others. We had Jackie Moses on earlier this week. We had Karan Rai. We've had Dominic London and many others. We have more to come. And so go back through and watch these. There's power in each of these. And as you can, take that stretch and join us in Birmingham in May. So we're looking forward to seeing you. Only 50 days to go. So guys, thank you so much. For everybody that's watching, thank you. We will see you in the next episode.